So we've got a fantastic panel discussion today. We're going to talk about ROBO, remote office, branch office, and how the client device is a priority for the user experience. Now, joining us, let's take a look-see here. Tom Flynn. He's Chief Technologist for Thin Computing at HP. And to his right, depending on how you see your screen, is Justin Galton. He's Director of Worldwide Business Development at AMD. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen.
Well, thanks for having me.
Good to see you, Neil.
So how about, now I gave a little bit of an introduction. I know everyone is very familiar with your companies, but you do have specialized interests. So I was hoping you could each introduce yourself, just talk a little bit about your interest in the remote work and play industry. I'll start off with you, Tom.
Yeah. So as Neil said, I'm Tom Flynn. I'm the Chief Technologist for the Cloud Client or Thin Computing group within HP. So I've been interested in this area since I was in college. I did, and I got a bit of gray hair, so college was a while ago, with virtualization on IBM 360s all the way through to first VDI implementations, our thin client computing, our AMD-based personal PC blades. We did all sorts of interesting things in this area. And as of late, what's been of most interest to me is the thin client, thin computing on the endpoint, and making sure it's rich enough, powerful enough to deliver a super rich experience to the end user, and then our work with Google around Chromebooks. So that's kind of the area of focus for me as of late.
All right, fantastic. And Justin?
Yeah, hey, Neil, thank you. I'm Justin Galton from AMD. As Neil said, I lead worldwide commercial client business development, go-to-market, and sell-out. And I align very closely with all ecosystem partners, probably a lot of you that are a part of this summit to get today. So, ISVs like Microsoft, Google, OEMs like HP, where Thomas is from, channel partners like the CDWs, Insights of the world. So, my role is very highly aligned and collaborative with all the different partners and parts of the ecosystem. So this forum, an opportunity to talk, is awesome. While we're developing Ryzen CPUs, we're intentionally aligning to real-world realities and use cases and workloads. So that reality today does highly align to hybrid work, remote work, and so we are very intentionally developing and co-developing many solutions right now that are intentionally supporting how we're working today. We're ensuring that our CPUs and our OEM platforms are enabling other use cases as well, other workloads such as the area of play, supplemental to working. So very excited to be here, very excited to talk further in this area, and great forum here today.
Fantastic. So we'll of course take advantage, Justin. So let's open up with a question. I mean, you're both producing hardware, okay? You're either the actual PCs or the silicon that goes into those PCs, and those devices, I should say. If we look at the user experience, okay? Let's start with remote work, okay? Are there criteria that you're looking to address with your equipment? I'll start with Tom.
Sure. There's lots of criteria we want to address, because as one of your speakers said earlier, the center of everything is around the customer, the end user, and their experience. Everything we can do. When we went to remote work, and COVID just accelerated the process, that meant your presence with your coworkers and things was all whatever was delivered through the video experience, like we're doing right now, is a virtual conference. So the quality of the camera, the ability to eliminate background noise, the ability to keep you in focus, right, is critically important. The audio quality, can you have a natural experience while you're talking to people, that it feels real? Those are areas we strive to, and we do it with developing our own ML technology, for the cameras. We do it through acquisition. We acquired Poly for the cameras, the new office space designs and collaboration. We do it through the peripherals we use, whether it's HyperX keyboard and mice, or it's through the software that we acquired with like Teradici to deliver that super rich end user experience for a workstation class experience, even when you don't have a workstation. So those are some of the areas that we focused on, but in the end, it's all about the end user and what they get from the experience. Because if they're happy, the entire ecosystem is happy. You gain productivity, you do all those things. I think that's why, if you look at the US, I mean, Fortune just had an article this morning, right? Pre-COVID, 95% of the people worked in office. This morning, they say 47% do, right? And there's 47% of that office space in downtowns is empty. And it's because we are delivering the experiences that make remote work.
So, okay, fantastic. So Justin, I'd be interested, I mean, we heard Tom's perspective. Are there criteria that AMD is looking to satisfy with their equipment, their contributions to remote work and play?
Yeah, absolutely. And, bear in mind, I'm more on the commercial side. So I'm very concerned about sort of, business to business, workloads, use cases, platforms. I would say there's three pillars that we're most intentional in prioritizing. Those are performance, portability, and security. With performance, it's really addressing the workloads of today, which in many cases includes a video collaboration tool like what we're using right now, plus some type of productivity suite like Office. That's the most common workload that we're all dealing on a daily basis. So, very strong performance and multitasking is very key. Portability, I think, AMD has really kind of set themselves up for leadership, the greatest right now. We have all day battery life, connectivity, and we're supporting very light and thin devices. So I think it's really important that, these devices can have, are easy to transport, can have connectivity wherever you go. I mean, right now I'm working from a hotel across the country from where I currently reside. I'm able to, do this meeting with you today across the country, and also security. I mean, this is a very vulnerable time for all of us, and there's a lot of attacks that are happening right now while we're vulnerable. So I think right now we have to be very aggressive, and a lot of that relates to the partnerships with OEMs like Tom is from HP and ISVs like Microsoft. So we're really set on a cohesive approach, including partners. And lastly, I would say, a lot of our CPU offering now has upgraded the GPU, such as AMD RDNA 2, so that we're, really considering how we're utilizing video collaboration and how we sort of utilize CPU versus GPU to make those experiences the best they can be.
Well, Justin, let me put you on the spot a little bit. So when I think of CPU and GPU processing, I think of, okay, faster. And that's the race. How is the race different when I'm talking about a race, I mean, within your industry, between, your competitors, like innovation, progress. Is the race different when it comes to remote work and play? Do you think of your hardware differently when you're working in that space?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to have a strong balance without compromises. And what I mean by that is you can't just have top, quickest performance. You got to also have power, energy efficiency to where you can actually use these devices if you are remote and you don't have power for an extended period of time, and the experience, whether it's work or play, is not greatly hindered. So, we're seeing sort of new terminology and benchmarks in the industry. A lot of it's kind of tailored towards performance per watt, looking at, performance leadership, but also not compromising on, sort of the power consumption and how much wattage is required to run these devices. So I think the portability and the remote aspects makes us have to look at this beyond just performance, but looking at sort of how do we address being able to be portable, connected, really from anywhere without sacrificing battery.
So what I'm consistently hearing is portability, battery life, and I suspect it ties into energy efficiency as well. Maybe it ties into battery life, but those are the big ones when it comes to remote work and play. Let me, Thomas, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Okay. We've been talking. See, partly this morning, I was sharing an example of working from home or, remote work with Tim and his kids, and, that he has to find a way to work. But, I was intrigued, that in other parts of the world, working from home is just impractical, period. There's not enough space. It's just impractical. Mm-hmm. I was wondering if you could describe the remote office, branch office market. Can you elaborate a little more as to what that serves and how it works?
So the remote office or smaller office, branch office provides a place for employees to go. One of your earlier speakers spoke about the need for human interaction. So that's one thing that happens at the remote office. You don't have to go to the central office to work. You have to have network connectivity. Not everywhere in the world has the same network connectivity, we kind of enjoy here. So that's where you get the network connectivity. That's where you have your meeting spaces, where you get that interaction with people, and you have high quality meeting rooms that meet that need for a person to project a great digital image of themselves. So, that's where poly cameras and where, presence capability and the machine and the ML offloading to do the work. I mean, simple things that happen in these branch offices, right? That you could do. It's where you don't have to go to the cloud to do all your work, right? That you can have ambient computing, for an example, right, where that computing is closer to you, so you don't have the latency of the network in that remote office. It's also easier to manage those endpoint devices inside your corporate firewall. That was a challenge many companies faced during COVID. When people went home, their inability to manage the devices off the network. So remote branch offices provided that capability to the teams. And you also get basic company functions in your remote branch office, right? So, that's where your HR people, all that kind of exists there. So those are some of the things that you get provided in your remote branch office.
All right, very good. Now, Justin, do you support certain form factors, that are suited for remote office?
Yeah, I mean, we have seen progression over the last several years towards more of the laptop form factor. We're still supporting thin clients, desktops, workstations, servers, et cetera. But, dependency on laptops has gone up. We saw a lot of, demand happening during the pandemic. And then we kind of looked at the other side of the spectrum and saw some saturation or oversaturation of laptop form factors, at various inventories around the world. So I would say, there has been migration and movement more to the laptops from more of the thin clients and desktops. But that being said, we still see a lot of thin client desktop requirements in the industry, and we are, supporting those and driving exciting innovation with roadmaps with our partners. So I would say definitely some migration more to the laptops. A lot of the end users that use desktops in the past can't just, they have to have something more portable to do those functions from home. So, or from the go or from a hotel. So obviously the portability aspect promotes that form factor the most.
Okay, very good.
If I could add to that, just a touch. Because one of the other trends we've noticed is the dramatic increase in mobile thin client usage compared to desktop thin clients. So you get the benefits of a corporately managed device with the portability and mobility of a laptop. So it kind of gives you the best of both worlds.
Well, I'll just add, we've been talking, the pandemic has come up more than once, right? Like as a driver for this, remote work and play lifestyle, which is continuing, right? Which is finding its own path after, right? Did you had an existing ecosystem, both of you, before this pandemic, struck. Did you learn something, when teams, when employees, worked, had remote work and play from home? Did it influence your product line somehow? Did it say, you know what, we learned something here and we got to change it this time around? Like, I'd be interested to hear how things changed, because, what you learned from the consumers and the users.
So from our point of view, one of the key things we learned was that you had to improve the camera, microphone, the digital presence someone had, because that is their only presence with the COVID drive. Now, that's not to say that it wasn't moving that direction anyway. COVID was an accelerant to the movement. I think it wasn't, but it was already in play. So that ability to do that and improve networking that was done by the entire, industry to homes, right? To bring fiber to people's homes and things like that was a big change. But for us, it was around the end user experience and around the security. So we have HP Wolf security that we put on all our devices, the ability to recover, or if you're going to be this mobile worker going in, things like share screen where, someone can't, eavesdrop over your shoulder by looking at your screen. It's those little things that they're not that little, they're actually pretty significant, but it's those things that make the experience so good and so secure.
Okay, very good. So, and Justin, I'd be interested, did this sudden influx of remote workers, did it change, your thoughts as to how, your products progress since?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that AMD took a, early position on this. And so we were steering our ship towards supporting hybrid workforces. But yes, the pandemic accelerated the need to drive this more intentionally and to have greater partnerships. I mean, I look at our partners for video collaboration. We're on Zoom now. We obviously do a lot with Microsoft Teams as well. We had to really double down on the co-development and synergies between those partners and what we were doing at the silicon level. And we also had to start communicating to partners, customers in different ways. I mean, not just all the traditional benchmarks, but talking about, real world examples and use cases of how people are using hybrid and remote, work and play. So I think part of it was sort of, pumping the accelerator on partnerships and co-development, maybe a little bit faster than what we were doing before. And I think part of it was, to Thomas's point, being much more customer centric and understanding how they're utilizing these technologies, understanding CSAT and what can be improved upon them, and taking next steps for future product development to make the experience even better.
So, let me follow up with you, Justin. So you talked about teleconference. So this is teleconference. We're using Zoom. There's Microsoft Teams. There's other solutions out there. Did these applications encourage an update to how your chips are designed? Did that actually have an influence as to how your future products are made?
Yeah, I mean, what I can say on that question, Neil, and that's a great question, is that our partnerships with the parties that are deploying those video collaboration tools just got strengthened and extended beyond what they were before, which was already positive and strategic. So yes, when we looked at kind of the pillars I mentioned before, performance, portability, security, there are very clear workflows and synergies and collaboration required across many partners of this ecosystem in order to drive effective, efficient video collaboration experiences. So I would say yes, all the way at early development stages, we now are very aligned with partners like Microsoft, Zoom, et cetera.
So would it be fair to say, and like future generations of your processors, they may do a better job working with tools like, not that I'm sure they're doing a great job today, but the point is they can enhance these tools even further. Is that reasonable?
Absolutely. We can look at how we multitask better and how a Zoom or Teams meeting does not weigh down the entire performance of a device like it did several years ago. As I mentioned earlier, we're addressing battery life and power consumption. Some of these video collaboration tools have been very power hungry in the past. And I would say, we're also looking at sort of next gen capabilities to make the experience better, in the area of AI and et cetera. So how do we make the experience feel more like you're in front of a person face to face versus behind a screen? And how can we make that experience feel maybe less formalized at times and more personal, based on the meeting, based on the matter? One area that I see that we can all drive greater innovation in is whiteboarding. I know there's whiteboarding features on all the tools, but it's very hard to get very adequate, substantial whiteboarding when you're not in a room with a whiteboard having a cross-functional meeting. So I think that's one area of opportunity that the entire ecosystem can really gather around and make the experience better.
All right, very good. So Tom, you're kind of, okay, so when we opened this summit up, we described three worlds, okay? Client, cloud, network. Okay, so you're working at both you, well, actually, Justin, I think he works at the other end of the spectrum too, in the cloud space as well. Thinking about the user experience that you're working to deliver from both a work point of view and a play point of view, are there things the industry could do, that could make your job easier?
Of course, there's things the industry could do. So we've done some, right? Simple things like in video conferencing, we do offloading to the endpoint so that you don't wait for it to loop back through a centralized server. But if you look at where your experience is driven, part of it is the capability of the endpoint device. What can it do? What work can it do? What work can it stop from going back up? Simple thing, blurring your background screen. There's no reason for that to go to the cloud, right? That's much better done locally, right? Audio video processing, much better locally. And then you have the server component, whether that's VDI in a site, or it's a SaaS service in the cloud, or it's a hosted desktop in the cloud, all of those things. But to connect them is the network. And the network is kind of the mystery case oftentimes in execution for the end user. And it's generally not the internet that's the challenge, it's the last mile normally. And when you remoted someone and you put them home, right? What you did is you put a commercial implementation on a consumer grade network, right? The quality of service isn't there. The basic things you had in the office aren't there. So as hybrid work matures, I suspect we will have significantly better network tools and quality of service. 5G delivers a degree of quality of service that's not available everywhere, but it's a step in the right direction to deliver that quality of service to that endpoint. And that's some of the areas I'd like to see. And I guess the other place is around how applications are developed and delivered, right? Because if I want to run things, develop it once, run it anywhere, right? There's obvious answers to go do that, right? A progressive web app is probably the ideal implementation method, but there's some people have some security concerns about that on some things. So then you have isolated web apps to kind of do that, but you get the same benefit. It's the same code running in the same place. So as the industry adopts it, which I think they are. Every customer I talk to, that's what they're developing, right? They're not developing targeted to specific OS endpoints anymore. It's really around web-based things. And our industry is just slow in adopting things, right? We keep everything forever, right? And I mean, the web standards have been around since the mid-90s, right? And it took time to go for where it was just your benefits to now it's your interactive display your data that you're doing with it that you used to use Excel for, right? So, it's moving in that direction, but to accelerate that trend would be best.
Okay, very good. Justin, what are your thoughts? Are there things the industry could do beyond the confines of AMD's world, that can make your job easier?
Yeah, I think Tom has hit on a lot of it. I mean, I think to his point, the infrastructure outside of the office needs to be improved. I mean, we're deploying, Wi-Fi 6E solutions in the industry right now, but if the modems in your houses and the routers don't support Wi-Fi 6E, then you're not going to, really enjoy and utilize that type of performance and experience. So I think, some of the infrastructure has to be updated. I mean, at a high level, the way that I see it is we all really have to be consultants in this area. As Thomas alluded to, the refresh cycles have been lengthy, and depending on the segment or vertical, it could be very lengthy. I think there's a goal of refreshing a lot of the devices out in the ecosystem right now to be more intentionally aligned to supporting remote hybrid work, video collaboration. But like Thomas said, I think the infrastructure and all the supporting technology that you need from a connectivity experience and beyond is really required to make sure that we are able to maximize. Because I mean, none of us like to be in a meeting where someone's connection is inconsistent, their screen is blurred. They have to call in via phone via using their PC because the connectivity is bad. So I think we're still working through some of those growing pains to have a more mature hybrid work experience and workloads.
Okay, perfect. We're running a little over time, but I really would like you both to answer this next question. You'll have to be quick, okay? It's a rapid fire, challenging question for you. You work with employers, people buy your products for enterprise. Are there misconceptions that you're finding among them when it comes to buying product, using product for remote work and play? Are there misconceptions that you find you have to overcome? I'll start with Tom.
Well, yeah. I mean, I can tell you from, and I'll just choose one segment. I'll choose thin computing as an example, right? It has a reputation as being for the low-end worker, the task worker in a factory, right? Well, that's just not true, right? Our models, one of them can support 6 4K displays running at full resolution and full refresh rates. And delivering it with the Teradici software for that rich workstation experience, right? You talked earlier about movie theater creators of movie content, right? This is kind of ideal answer for them, right? All the content stays centralized. You get the rich user experience on the endpoint. You can go anywhere from one high-def screen through on a mobile device all the way through 6 screens if that's what you wanted. So I think the capabilities of what it means to be a SaaS serviced or a remote desktop or VDI serviced or a desktop as a service model is really not all that well understood in the industry, but it's got a huge rapid adoption rate.
Okay, very good. Now, quickly, Justin, did you want to add to that answer?
Yeah, I mean, misconceptions, remote work and play is going away. It's not going away. It's here to stay. We're only at the tip of the iceberg. Number 2, as one of your speakers said before, productivity gets hindered when you're not in the office. We're now putting solutions together that enable very strong productivity out of the office. So high level answers, but those are kind of the 2 biggest ones.
Okay, fantastic. Well, by the way, I want to thank you both. Not just that you're tremendous speakers and you're educating our attendees. AMD and HP were both core sponsors for this gathering, and we're all grateful for that.